computer. I would like you to please welcome Janice IMBROGNO. I probably messed up your name a bit.
No, that's fine.
Of Home Health and Spirit. Janice was here a few weeks ago where she did a wonderful in-person workshop for us. So I'm really glad to have her back today. Janice was a former home ec teacher, and she knows an awful lot about keeping us healthy and happy, and now prepared for whatever comes our way. Go ahead, Janice.
Okay, thank you very much. And that was a really nice introduction. So there's not much else to say, but I will tell you that I love to be prepared, and I love the feeling of the security that goes along with preparedness. So I would love for you to participate because I want to meet your needs. Now, when I was gathering the information for this class, I realized we could have a whole semester course in this. There's just so much to share. So I made it concise so we could fit it into an hour and a half, whatever we need. Some of you, this might be the very first introduction to preparedness, and some of you might be avid preppers and have higher level questions. So please feel free to use the chat. Feel free to interrupt me. We'll make it a discussion. I have a lot of things to show you. I have slides. And again, the whole purpose is to meet your needs. So please let me know where you're at. So we're going to talk about how to be prepared for things that are unexpected. And this is my name and this is my website. I do have a few articles on my website about preparedness. So if there's something that sparks your interest and you want to learn more, feel free to go to my website. I also have an Instagram and a YouTube. Everything's under Home Health and Spirit. But you'll also find, as I did, that there is so much on the internet and on YouTube that you can find out about preparedness. So let me do a little bit of general information, and then I'd love to check in with you and to see what your specific interests are. So my main point is we don't have a crystal ball, and I like to view this, like I tend to think of it as like an insurance policy, because we will talk about finances and what this costs, but we don't know what's going to happen. And just like we buy car insurance and medical insurance and life insurance, hoping that we'll never need it, that's the same with us. We don't want to invest in all this preparedness stuff because we want a disaster. No, we don't. And it doesn't have to be any extreme disasters, but we want to make ourselves and our families safe and comfortable and feel in control if and when something happens. And if it does, hopefully it's minimal. But we prepare because we don't know what the future is going to bring. And I always just say to people, be alert, be aware. Like with myself, I'm very aware what is, for example, what's on the supermarket shelves, because let me just stop this for a second again. As Marie said, I was a home ec teacher. I spent my life in the supermarket. I loved all these things. When I was 12 years old, I would food shop for my mom. When I was in college, I would food shop for my mom. Then I was in the supermarket for myself as a teacher, buying things for my foods classes. I was in the supermarket when I had my own home. And I've never seen empty shelves and a lack of variety as I do now. So that's the point I wanted to make. I'm not in any panic. I don't have any major concerns, but I am alert and I'm aware and I watch things. And when I see things might be hard to get, I pick up extra just in case. So I hope that is helpful. So my philosophy is not to live in fear. And here's some philosophies, I guess, and I highlighted the words that I thought were most important, so this wouldn't be overwhelming. You want to be secure. You want to feel empowered. You want to be upbeat about this. You don't want to, if there's shortages, get caught waiting in line. It's so much better to go to your attic for some toilet paper than to wait a half hour online to get some. It's an ongoing process. I like to view it as a hobby, and it does give you peace of mind. So that's where I'm coming from. It's not a doom and gloom. It's not a panic. It's just, this is a hobby. This is what I do to keep my family safe and secure, just like I would if I was buying medical supplies or any type of insurance. So now we could have everything. It's really funny. I just like to make this personal. So Marie and I would just discovered we went to the same high school. I remember when I was there and we had an ice storm and they sent us home. And that was the only time in my life that I ever got sent home from school in the middle of the day, but all the electricity went out. And at those days, they didn't care if the parents were home. They just sent everybody home. So it could be something like that. It could be a drought. It could be a flood. Look what happened. Wasn't it recently I think it was Fort Lauderdale in Florida, where they had extreme flooding. It could be a natural disasters. We don't get earthquakes or volcanoes, really. I mean, we'll get a little tremor here or there, but there could be fire, illness. You could just read down the list, things we've gone through with lockdowns. I've waited on gas lines myself. There's just different things. And then there's serious things like, what if there was a biological attack or some kind of war? Or EMP, for those of you who don't know, is electromagnetic pulse. And I just want to tell you that that could come from radioactive material, but it also could come from the sun. Sometimes just naturally, the sun will set out flares. And what it does is make most of our electronic equipment unusable. They've done studies and tests. They don't really know exactly what would happen, but people say if there is an EMP, either natural or not natural, you have to be prepared because you won't be able to use your internet and, other types of electronics devices. So those are the kind of things that we're going to, just keep in our mind. Why are you even taking this class? These are the reasons why I'm teaching you these things. Feel free to take notes. Feel free to take screenshots. It is being recorded. And I do have a PDF of some of the information in slides that I will send to Marie. So she'll have that for you. Please at this point, if anybody wants to use the chat or if anybody wants to interrupt me and ask me anything, feel free. And the last general slide is just do something. You know what? Let me show you something right now. I have a lot of preps and I will show you pictures, but even if you just get a plastic box like this, I filled this with some basic things and it seems to be disorganized, but there's a flashlight, there's a light, a solar light, there's batteries, there's an emergency radio, there's candles. I could go on and on, but even if you just have a little box like this in your closet, that's a start. That's more than having nothing. I really am curious if any of you want to say, do any of you prep? Because there are people that have like entire closets and rooms full of preparation, and there are people that just have one little box that you could stick in your closet. Anything is fine. Do what's good for you and what you think you and your family need. So again, if you want to tell me, I'll watch the chat. Okay. So before we go to water, I'm going to be speaking about a lot of things, and you might say, oh my goodness, I can't afford all this. So just a couple of notes on finances. First of all, I think the materials I'm going to show you today make great gifts. A new home gift, if you gave a couple a box like that with all basic emergency supplies, what a valuable gift than another picture frame. Or, as a wedding or shower gift. I think preps make great gifts that nobody thinks of. You can make it a hobby. Like I said, for me, it's a little side hobby and I like to add to it. I didn't go out and buy all of this at once. I did it little by little. Always have cash, coins, and credit cards because you never know what you're going to need. I collect a lot of spare change and I always used to go bring it to the bank and have it converted to bills, but now I keep it because I just want to have coins just in case. Like if people can't make change, you want to have a lot of singles and coins and things like that. The dollar store, even though it really is the $1.25 store, but they don't admit it, that's a great place to get preps. Try to save little by little, have 6 months of living expenses. And if you're trying to raise extra money because you want to do this, have a garage sale, do some weeding out in your house, some decluttering. Maybe you can make some extra money, sell on Facebook Marketplace, but you might want to get rid of things and then have a little extra cash to buy some preps. I mentioned viewing it as insurance, and when you can, buy in bulk, or buy it by sales. And again, don't forget the dollar store. So that's where you get the money. So I'm going to talk about water and a little bit about food, and then we'll go into the physical preps. Water, I focus on this so much because you need water to survive. The unfortunate thing is that water takes up the most room with storage, and that makes it a little difficult, and we can talk about storage. But I have a couple of pictures here. This is called a life straw, and this, people use it when they're camping, but if you have to get water from a lake or a stream, or you're collecting rainwater and you need to filter it, you could buy these filters and bottles, and they help. This is a Berkey filter. It does not need electricity. It works on gravity. So that is a great filter system. I never used to buy bottled water, but now I do for preps, and I'm always yelling at my children, don't drink that, that's for emergencies. Plus, I don't like water in plastic bottles, but you have to do what you have to do. Sometimes I always taught, if you have to get germs out of water, say the electricity isn't pumping water and water is standing still, to boil it. I have a handout for you. The CDC says to boil it. There are some people that will say that doesn't get everything out, but in an emergency, you can do that. You can put a drop of unscented bleach in your water. You can buy these tablets. And this is just a 3-gallon, or you can have empty 5-gallon Poland Spring bottles. I bought 2 of these from Whole Foods because I thought if a storm was coming and I needed to fill up a lot of water before the storm, I could fill that. Okay, so to save water, in case running water is not available, stock up on paper goods, because then you don't want to waste valuable water washing dishes. You can use coffee filters or a clean piece of fabric if you have to filter debris out of water. Boil water, and if not possible, disinfect it with bleach or iodine or the tablets. You can have collection. I'm going to talk about rain collection in a minute, but have bins and pots and things that you can collect water with. If your water is dirty, say it's runoff from a gutter, use it then just to wash your hands, not necessarily to drink. Filter it, use it to clean your clothes and that type of thing. The recommendation for water is to store 1 to 2 gallons per person per day. I just wanted to show you, I practice what I preach. This is my house. These are the Poland Spring bottles that I have, that they have to get organized and clean my deck, but they're out on my back deck, and I have a lot, and it was worth my peace of mind to invest in them. And this is the bottled water that I have in my basement. And again, I don't normally recommend drinking out of plastic bottles, but I just wanted to have a lot of water in, so I really do what I tell you to do. My doctor told me about this. In talking to him, he's just my regular GP. He really is a prepper, and he got a device that you could change salt water into drinking water. I don't have it. I don't use it, but it's called Quench C. And for anybody who's in this program that might really like to go, very strong into preparing, this is something you might want to look into. I think it was about $300, if I remember correctly. And it's a whole process, but it will desalt your water, if that is the correct term. And then this is a very interesting thing called a water bob. It's not that expensive. I bought one from Amazon because I remember when I was small, if something was going to happen, my mom would always fill the bathtub with water. But sometimes your drains leak or your bathtub's not the cleanest it could be. This is just a big plastic bubble that you can put in your bathtub to fill up. Again, in case a storm is approaching, you're afraid if the electricity goes out and the water station can't pump water, that is something. And then these are examples of rainwater collection. This is a portable rainwater collection. This is a whole big system that somebody has. And then you could just put buckets out too, and maybe put a little screen over them so that leaves and things wouldn't fall in. Again, unless you purify it, it wouldn't be your first choice for drinking water, but if you had to, then you would filter it and you would purify it. So water, I'll talk about food right now, but I just want to stop in case anybody has any questions or comments, and also say that I spent so much time on water because if you prep with one thing, that is the most important. Anybody have any questions? And just put them in the chat. I'll keep checking. Okay. So let's go to food. Now, okay. I'm going to say a little bit about food. I have a whole class just about food because just like this could be a whole semester course, you could spend days talking about food preparing. But in general, let me show you. Let me just grab a couple of things first so that this makes sense. I just grabbed a couple of things. I store food in glass jars. The advantage is that, no bugs or anything can get into it. The disadvantage is that it is heavy. So depending on your shelving, but I have cornmeal in here and I vacuum sealed this so that if I press this, I don't have one that's not sealed, but it's not wobbly. That means even though you see air in here, there's no oxygen in this, there's space, but this is going to make the cornmeal last longer. I have oatmeal in these, I have pasta in these. Some people actually can their own fruits and vegetables. You can put rice in these. It is investment in the jars, but they are reusable. So that is one thing you could do. And I do use a vacuum sealer. So I use the vacuum sealer to seal the jars, but you can also, here's some cassava flour, and this is like hard like a rock because I sucked all the air out of it. So this will help this last longer. I also freeze my flour. If I buy flour, when I buy flour from the supermarket, I put it in the freezer. I saw different recommendations, but I put it in my freezer for 10 days, just in case there's any larvae or bugs or anything in that, it would kill it. And, that's what I do. Some people also use Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers. So you could put pasta in here, you could put rice, you could put beans, and then you put some oxygen absorbers and you seal this Mylar bag. This is really, it looks like metal, but it's really a form of plastic. It's like a Mylar balloon. And then if you really want to go heavy duty prepping, you could put these in 5-gallon buckets and seal them. But again, depending on your family's needs, your space, your budget, but a couple of other things about food prepping, and then I'll show you the slides. Buy what your family eats. There's no sense stocking up on rice and dried beans if nobody's going to eat it. What's the point? My family doesn't eat a lot of beans. I have a few cans of beans because I know it's a great source of protein. I also have protein powder. I have protein bars. I have extra refrigerators and freezers, but if the electricity goes out, you have to have things that are non-perishable. You also want to get some foods that don't have to be cooked. Now, if you have an electric stove, you're out of luck. If you buy a propane barbecue, and you buy some propane tanks, that's a good way to cook. If you have a gas stove, you can light it carefully with a match. But sometimes you might be in a situation where you have to eat food that you can't cook. So I have, something interesting here I want to show you also. So then I would have things like peanut butter and jelly. If you have soup or canned foods, you may not be able to cook it per se, but this is called, let me show you the box. This is called a candelier. And I think it's so interesting. I'm not going to light it, but you can light the candles for light and you can hold it. And I have a picture coming up, but you could put a little pot, or if you have a can of food, you could put a can of soup on this. It might not be piping hot, but it would be warm and it would be more pleasant. Or if you had a hot beverage that you just wanted to warm up, you can put this on there. I'm going to show you one other cooking idea. Oh, I love this idea. This is a cast iron trivet. And I just want to find a tea light. So cast iron, it's great to have cast iron cookware because if you get that heated up, that will stay hot long. But this is a little trivet and you can put these tea light candles and that will keep things warm. So, just an idea. Try to have things that don't require, when you're food prepping, have a variety. Some things might need cooking, but just be careful what's perishable, what needs a lot of heat and energy to cook, and what you can eat with just a minimum of heat or just by opening a can. So you want to vary that up. All
One
right.
of those vacuum sealers, my father got one as a gift once. He loves it. He loves it so much, especially if he like makes a run to Arthur Avenue and buys like a lot of sausage at one time. He just vacuum seals it up, and he, it keeps things fresher longer.
It does, and I love it too, and it's kind of fun when you see them. It's like a toy, and it sucks all the air out, but I love it too. And then, we don't eat a lot of meat, so when I buy chicken or beef, I vacuum seal it and put it in the freezer. You don't get the freezer burn.
I think I'm gonna get one because my son is a vegan. And so
Ah,
we have so many different grains upstairs, and I worry about moths and things like that. And it'd be nice to vacuum, seal some of the multitude of grains he has in my closet, in my pantry right now.
yes, and then, like I showed you, I don't know where I put the jar, they sell an attachment and you can vacuum seal the
Yes,
jars.
I've seen those.
Yeah, so that's good, and I
Thank
see I
you.
have something. Oh, you're welcome. I have something in the chat. Use a generator. Yes, absolutely. Sarah, thank you. Yes, we're going to talk about a generator and a couple of types of generators. So, for example, I have 3 refrigerators and 4 freezers, but they're not big. Some of them are just extra, but I have a plan, and I'll give you one story about a generator. I don't know, 2, 3 months ago, I had to have the electricity in my house shut off for 6 hours because they were replacing the electric panel, and as you obviously can guess, I have a lot of food stored. So I made a plan. I have a portable generator. I didn't take the big one out, but I used my portable generator and I put all the important food in 2 refrigerators and went back and forth with that generator. So absolutely. And I'm going to give you some ideas about using a generator too. So thank you for saying that. So have some foods that you like, have some snack foods. You know what, if you're down and out and things are not going well, if somebody likes coffee, have coffee. If somebody drinks alcohol or some wine or something or beer, have it for them. Have chocolate, have snacks, have popcorn, have things that will, brighten people's spirits a little bit, and rotate your foods. That's the other thing. I don't think I pulled out any of my cans, but when I come home from the supermarket, it is a little bit time consuming because I date the cans and then I put them in the back of the pantry so that everything is always rotated. And I find that that works very well. So, when you shop, check your. I get so frustrated because I notice that the use Best Buy dates or the expiration dates are not as far out as they used to be. I think supermarkets are holding things in their warehouses a little longer. So check your dates because I've been in the supermarket very often when I'm going to buy, say, a dry product like a cracker, and the Best By date could only be a month or 2 in advance. And I'm like, I'm not going to spend my money on this if it's going to go bad so soon. So definitely check the dates. Always have gardening supplies just in case you had to grow some of your own food. And don't forget your pets. Make sure you have some food and water for them. Also, salt, honey, I meant to put sugar. They really don't go bad. Just don't vacuum seal sugar or salt because it'll come out like a rock. I store sugar in the mason jars, and salt you can use for so many things. Okay, so we'll talk about generators now. So there are big generators that you could get of various sizes, and they use gas or propane or other fuels. I didn't know much about it, but somebody suggested to me to get one that you could use either fuel in case one fuel is hard to get. And they told me that propane was easier because the gas you don't have to drain out, et cetera, et cetera. But you may if you can, if you have the space for it, doesn't apply, for example, to apartment dwellers. But if you have the space for it and can afford it and you can get a generator, that's great. So eventually I did. I always wanted one. I got one not too long ago. And then I also got this is just one brand that I purchased. This is a portable generator. And if, say, the electricity goes out and it's just a blip and it's going to be out for a couple of hours and you don't want to drag out the big generator and hook up the gas or propane and make all that noise, this is what I used for the 6 hours that my refrigerator was out. And you charge it up. It has solar panels, or you can, while you have electricity, charge it up. It holds 80% of the electricity for a very long time, and it's a real good peace of mind thing. The other thing I do, if a storm is approaching, I always say to my kids, charge everything, charge your phones, we have old computers that you could put CDs in. I invested in portable DVD players just for entertainment, just charge everything up. So that's a portable generator. You can get solar generators, you can get smaller power banks that, they could be this big, like a size of 2 decks of cards, and you could have them and always have batteries. And I put a picture of a propane tank. You would think I'm nuts, but I have like 8 propane tanks because it's peace of mind, because I have a barbecue. I also have a fire pit, and I'm going to use the propane for the generator if I ever need it. And the man at the propane store told me that they last like 12 years. And from research I've done, says that they last a really, really long time. So being they're not like so perishable, I really stocked up because this gives me peace of mind, especially for my generator. So whatever you could use, whatever that works for you. Now, this might not be as much of interest to you because we're not in the winter, but I'll just mention, if you lose power and you don't have heat during the winter, that's very dangerous and obviously very uncomfortable. So it's great if you have these things on this list. The reason I have a tent on there is because if it's the middle of winter and there's no heat in the house, if you put the tent in a room that you could close off and have a lot of blankets, etc., and all the family members get under the tent in sleeping bags, you will help keep each other warm, and you'd be surprised how well you could do if you had to. Wool, I have wool socks and blankets because wool really keeps the warmth. And I love an old-fashioned hot water bottle, even for tummy trouble and comfort, but that can keep you warm. And then I have here the hand warmers. They have feet warmers, body warmers. If you're lucky enough to have a fireplace or a wood stove or a fire pit, those are all great. Don't forget you can move around. If I lose heat, I will boil water on my gas stove because that puts moisture in the air, and moisture holds heat. Of course, carefully. You close off a room with plastic, you seal windows, etc. Drink warm liquids. If you have to, go to a warming center. But I kind of did this in order, and I started with water and food and power and now heat, because those are the most crucial things that you need. This is how to create a warm room, and I printed this in the handout that you're going to get. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but you just seal everything off and keep everybody in the one room so that your body heat will keep everything warm. Now, if electricity does not go out, it's great to have electric heaters. Just say your oil or gas burner breaks. It's just really nice to have these, but if you don't have electricity, then you might want to get a propane heater. So you can see already how this is adding up, and I hope I'm not overwhelming you. That's why I talked about finances in the beginning, but this could be a hobby. This could be for the person who has everything. You could say the next holiday, birthday, oh, I'd love a propane heater, and then you could buy the little cans of propane to use with this, or you could buy a hose, which I did. I have one of these also, and it hooks up to my big propane tank. So again, if I don't have electricity, I just want to make sure everything's okay. This might look confusing, but this is just a bird's eye view of the box I showed you before. And there's like glow sticks in there. There's candles. There's lighters, the radio, that kind of thing. This is the power bank. But this is my basement closet. And I just wanted to show you, if you're creative, you could find, and then I'm going to check the chat, a way to store. So in my basement, you can see that there's I think that's the gas meter, and there's all these meters and stuff. There's a utility closet. And so I don't use that one bin, like I'm really more into it, and I labeled everything, and I have there's a whole row behind this. That's the Jackery heater, but that just happens to be candles. I think those were birthday candles, but I have some candles there. But there's candles, there's matches, there's lanterns, I'll go over more and more, but it's all tucked in the back corner of a utility closet. And that's the best place that I found. If you live in an apartment, if you don't have space like that, my best suggestion is possibly if you could declutter a closet, and even if you have a couple of bins, maybe put them on the bottom of your coat closet and then your shoes or boots on top of that. Or if you have a shelf that goes high up, up to the ceiling, maybe you can stack some things on a shelf. I'm not a fan of keeping things under your bed, but some people do store things under their bed because they have no other storage place. So just be creative. You may not go full on like me with all this stuff, but it gives me security. But even if you have one bin like this, that's fine. So I'm going to check the chat. And oh, Sam said hi. Hi. Okay. So anyway, let's go to the next slide. So let's talk about lighting, and I want to tell you an interesting story. So a headlamp, I want to show you that. A lot of these things, I am not, and I'm going to check the chat again. I am not promoting Amazon. I have no links or affiliates with it. It's just an easy place to get things. And years ago, it's just the way things are. You could go to a camping store, you could find all these things, you go to Walmart, but a lot of times things aren't in stock. So for lighting, a headlamp, I don't think this is adjusted, but this is great because you can put this on your head. I don't know if this one has batteries in it. Yeah, see? Turn it on, and then your hands are free to do whatever you have to do. They're just good to have, even if you have, oh, it flashes too. Wait.
I have one. I have one for knitting and crocheting.
Oh, that's great.
So I never thought that, yeah, we could use it in an emergency. It's, I wanted to say something, you said you are giving a lot of information, but I think each of us can take what we need from it. It's and make it your own, make it personal.
That's what I like. Yes, absolutely. That's my philosophy too. Take what you want, and use what applies to your situation, because it's an abundance of information. It really, really is. I have these, I showed you my basement where everything was stored. I didn't want to start pulling all the boxes out. So last night on Amazon, I ordered them overnight. I got 2 more, but these are great. You just pull it up, and it takes 3 AA batteries, and it's really bright, and that's it. And you can carry, everybody in the family should have one of these. You should also have a flashlight in your nightstand if you can. And then, of course, along with lighting, and I'll show you other things. I have some batteries here, just like a whole battery case, but definitely have batteries. The case where they stand up vertically is better. I have friends that are professional organizers, and they told me, don't let these sides meet, always put them the same way. So if you store your batteries, I hope that's helpful. We had the lanterns like this, and let's just talk about lighting for another minute. You could get, the solar lights. I want to show you that. Glow sticks. Kids love the glow sticks. And candles. Don't forget to have candles in the house. But these are the glow sticks. And at night they'll show better, but they glow. And these are nice, and they're plastic, and they're safe for children. And then this was on Shark Tank. I don't know if any of you saw this, but it blows up. I won't blow it up now. It's solar charged, and they call it Luminade. It has a handle, so you can hang this from a tent. And again, we're in daylight, so it doesn't look as bright and it's not really blown up, as you could see. But this is a great thing. And you could also charge it in the wall before an emergency. So you have a lot of different options for lighting. All right, now you're going to get a handout with this because, it doesn't pay for me to read all of it. I'll just talk about a few of it. If you like coffee, you want to have a percolator. That's an old-fashioned coffee maker in case your electric coffee pot doesn't work. I love cast iron pots because they hold the heat. I told you about the chandelier. This is a small can of propane, which you can use in the heater or a propane stove. Make sure you have a manual can opener in case the electricity goes out, a manual timer. Make sure you have printed recipes. If you can't get to the internet, you're not going to find things you're used to getting. So I hope that helps. I'm going to check the chat while you look at this, and you will get a handout of that. And actually, I have to put my glasses on. Okay. Okay, so I don't know, Sam, I'm not sure what your messages are. Okay. Okay, great. All right. So you're going to get a handout of this. And then entertainment activities. You want to keep everybody's spirits up. We are so used to our electricity. If we lose it if it goes out for a split second, we all panic, the electricity. So you want to keep people happy, content, entertained, distracted. So make sure you have some crafts and some puzzles and some games and toys and clay. And as I said, I invested in portable DVD players because although we don't usually watch DVDs, we have them, and it would keep my adult kids occupied. And Marie, you mentioned crochet before, but I love to have some kind of little handcraft there, and clay and books and different things. You will also, this one is also in your handout, but you never know. Make sure there's a fire extinguisher, and make sure you have battery operated carbon monoxide and fire detectors, because if the electricity goes out, you have to have that backup battery. And then if it's an extreme emergency, you might want to have plywood and plastic sheeting and staple guns and tools and duct tape, a first aid kit. I think I have my first aid kit right here. Yeah, have, a first aid kit, and we'll get into that a little bit more, but all your tools, 5-gallon buckets are really good. I'm very big on natural remedies, your medications, we'll get to that in a second. Here's just some other suggestions. This is on your handout too, because this is just you can just read this over, but it's good to have all these different things because you just never know. And it's funny how many families run around, they can't find a pair of scissors. Scissors are inexpensive. Go buy five pair of scissors and have them all over your house. And sewing supplies too, in case something rips. Now, your health and wellness, don't forget, if you can't get to a store, I always stock up on this. Let's just say you're snowed in. It doesn't have to be an extreme weather or emergency. I guess that's an extreme weather event, but do you have extra toilet paper, personal care items, shampoo? If you're sick, do you want to run out to the store when you're feeling horrible to go buy some medication? Or do you have your stomach preps, your headache preps, your anti-inflammatories, all that? The basic kind of stuff. It's just really important to have everything and to have a supply, and you could rotate through it, but I always make sure we're well stocked with that, because even if something is hard to find or hard to source. So these are just some examples. I did put essential oils because, again, I'm into my home remedies. I put salt because salt is very healing. If you have an infection, you can say it's in your finger. You could stick your finger in salt water. Peroxide you can use to disinfect. You can use in your laundry if you have to. wipes. It's just everything that you're going to get that. So that's just a suggestion. I can't claim that I'm all inclusive because I could have forgotten something. These are just some of the essential oils that I use, but any natural remedies, you might use silver, you might use salt, you might use herbs and tinctures, whatever your natural remedies are, make sure you have them. Okay, now you have to keep in touch with people. Make sure, remember, we're going to print our recipes. You've got to print people's addresses and phone numbers, because if you can't use, if there's no internet, you're not going to be able to contact people. Some people are lucky enough to have CB radios or ham radios. Walkie-talkies don't go a very far distance, but they could be helpful in an emergency. It's really important to know your neighbors, have a sense of community. One neighbor might have a really powerful generator and they'll share a line. Another neighbor might be really good at, I don't know, cooking and have extra food. Another neighbor might be a nurse or a doctor and can help with medical care. But it's nice if you can work as a community. If there is emergency, help each other out. I always say with the food preps also, always have some extra food, more than you need, that you set aside, that you would share with friends and family and people who don't prep, because not everybody does this. So it's also nice to have a family password, family meeting place, do fire drills, that type of thing, but just be prepared and have plans. If if there's no communication. I remember, okay, I'm going to show my age, but I remember when there was a whole Northeast blackout. I think it was 1965 or something like that. And I remember my grandmother worked in Manhattan and we lived in Elmont. And we had no way to know how she was getting home, if she was stuck in an elevator. And my father was driving home from New Jersey. So there were no cell phones. You just had to wait. And I remember my grandmother was able to get a bus just up to the border of my town and Queens. And then somebody gave them a ride home, but we didn't know where anybody was or how anybody was. And we had candles and a transistor radio, and that's it. And today you would that's crazy. Nobody could imagine that, but that's how it was. And that's how it could be if I keep saying it, but if our internet went out, we're so dependent on it. So make sure you have meeting places and you have designated plans and things printed out so that you can get in touch with people. For transportation, I love to ride my bicycle. I don't know if any of you are bicycle riders, but have a bicycle with a basket. And sometimes I just test it out and I'll ride my bicycle to the supermarket. I'll lock it up. I'll see how much I could put in the basket, because if gas is scarce, you may have to walk and pull a wagon, or if you have an old baby stroller or beach cart or something, a wagon, and have printed maps. Like I said, with everything else, you have to have things in print. Maybe you have scooters, maybe they're manual scooters, maybe they're electric scooters, but you need a way to get around. I also store gasoline, and I do not store it with the propane. I have a couple of 5-gallon gasoline in a separate shed. The propane is outside covered in tarps, but I have to, it's a little bit of a to do, because I have to put stable in it. Stable is a stabilizer so the gas doesn't go bad, and I date it. And I just came to the 1-year mark, and now it's such a pain in the neck. I have a funnel and I have to have my son hold the 5-gallon, but I rotate it, and now I'm using it in my car. And then I bring the can to the gas station, I fill up, and then I put the stabilizer in it, and then I have gasoline for a year. Yes, it'll run my generator, but if I have an emergency and I have to get someone with my car and there's a 2-hour line to get gas, I want to make sure. And I had somebody teach me how to use a funnel and put gas in my car, because I didn't know how to do that. And the things you have to learn, but you know what? It gives me peace of mind. And if I had to lift that 5-gallon thing, I'd lift it. But right now I make my son do it. So my father taught me, always fill your tank at half. He used to tell me, I'm not a mechanic. I don't know if this is true, but he didn't want the sludge from the bottom of the tank to come up. But I do it now, and I try to remind my children, but they don't always listen to me. You never know if there's going to be an emergency. Always fill up on half. And sometimes it might not be a gas emergency. You may have to, in the middle of the night, run to a loved one's aid, and you don't want your tank to be empty. You want to know that you can jump in your car and get somewhere at a moment's notice. Maybe somebody has to go to the emergency room at the hospital, and maybe the hospital's not that far, but I just think that it's good to have your tank full as, as much as you can. Have a mirror in your car for reflection. Have spare keys. It's really important that you don't have one set of car keys, and keep up on the maintenance of all your transportation. So here's some things. I'm going to show you some backpacks that I keep in my car, but I like to have a lot of these different supplies in my car. That headlamp is really good. I wouldn't know what to do if I lifted my hood, but if anybody's going to help you, it's good to have one of those headlamps. There's also a thing called a halo that my daughter's boyfriend told me about, and it is an emergency battery charger, and it can fill up your tires, and it's a really good thing. But those are some suggestions for your car. And if you have to shelter at home, these are just some things that I kind of mentioned. You might have to board up your windows with plastic or plywood, fill everything up with water, charge everything that's electric, get paper if you can. And, sometimes that's the thing. But sometimes you have to grab and go. So that's just two different types of emergencies. I think the shelter at home is a little bit more convenient, more comfortable. We just like hunker down. We can have friends over that can walk.
I think Janice realized her feed stopped, and she'll be back on in a second. Before this started, Janice and I were talking about how from Superstorm Sandy was followed a week later by a horrible snowstorm. And I learned I live in an apartment above my parents. I didn't realize that when the heat goes out, when the electricity goes out, so does the heat. And I kept calling my dad and saying, Dad, please turn the heat back on. And he would just laugh at me. So my advice is always to have extra blankets on hand, because some of us get very cold. But I like the idea of having a tent too. I think Janice is coming back. And yes, to whoever just sent me their email, thank you very much. I don't want to mention people's names, but I'm writing it down right now.
Oh, I'm back.
Thank you, Janice. It's funny because we had like a something brief flickered in the building too, so I wasn't sure if it was you or me.
Isn't that funny? So I'm on my phone now. So that is funny because it flickered on my end too, and then it said I had no internet. This couldn't be more appropriate. Did we lose anybody, or is everybody
No,
still?
we're all here waiting.
Okay, I'm so sorry, but I had just basically, you can see, okay, come to the end of my slide. So I'm so glad I didn't lose you. like that is just too weird. But I'm doing this from my phone, so I hope that you can still all see okay. And I'm going to show you my backpack that I carry in my car. And I was showing you the cords, and I want to show you the battery pack. So this is the battery pack that I was talking about. This also is solar, so you can charge this with the sun. It has an emergency light, it has a flashlight, and you can charge your phones with these. So I keep this charged all the time, and I keep one in my. And then I have different cords for different, I can't keep up with the cell phones, different cell phones. Like my cell phone has a different charger than my iPad. So just in case this could be handy, I could be visiting a friend and my phone or my computer or something dies. I have all the cords that I need. Or we could be out at a beach, out at a park. It doesn't have to be an emergency, but I like to have anything I would need to charge up. I have a set of clothes. I'll just kind of hold that up. I don't have to pull that all out. But I have a change of clothes, a fleece jacket. I have a mirror. I have a couple of pair of socks. I carry gloves. It might even be summer, but you never know if you have to protect your hands. I have a notebook. I have a pen. And I have a little sewing kit and safety pins. Do any of you remember the old TV show Let's Make a Deal when the people pulled things out of their pocketbook? That's what it's like, but it's just fun to be prepared. I have some vinyl gloves. I have a hairbrush. I have tweezers and scissors and lip balm, nail files, just different things that I would need in an emergency. And say you had to grab and go and run to a shelter. I have things here that would put me in a little bit of advantage. This is just like personal care items. There's deodorant in here and sunblock and some silver, some eye drops. You know, I think more lip balm, hand sanitizer. So I have that. And for vanity, this is a little mini hair iron. This is a little bag that opens up. I have books to read. Oh, I wanted to show you matches. These are waterproof matches. It's good to have little big lighters, the big lighters, matches on long sticks. This has a nice striker, and it just has these matches in here. But just in case anything got rained on or wet and I needed to light something, I have matches. So I think you get the idea. I'm a poncho, a deck of cards, all the things I told you about. And that's what my grab and go bag is. So let me just see time wise. Okay, so we're about at an hour. Do just wondering if I could see the chat, or Marie, you could tell me the chat.
Sure.
Does anybody have any questions? And I'm just going to look at my other slides to see if there was anything else that I wanted to teach you.
I think it's brilliant that we had an emergency during this and you were able to come right back. And that just shows how well prepared you are.
Panicking. Now, it's interesting. I'll tell you a true story. So I have a friend whose husband sent me up with a hard wire so that I could connect my computer to hardwire to my modem. And right before the class, I said, oh, maybe I should hardwire my computer. And then I was like, well, if the modem goes out, it's not going to make a difference. So I didn't do it. But my electricity flickered, and I think that's what threw off my modem. But it is funny, and it shows us how dependent we are. But now that I'm on my phone, I could take you around my house if anybody needed anything. Is there anything else that anybody's saying in the chat, or anything else specifically that you would like to learn about?
Not yet.
Okay.
It's interesting too. We were talking before about Superstorm Sandy and then that horrible blizzard afterwards. my sons were younger at the time, and they were really upset that they couldn't get to their devices. So I think he said before, have all those chargers on hand, and be prepared and have that backup emergency source, because you can't reach people. Remember when the Twin Towers were hit, and we were all trying to call our relatives in the city to find out where people were. And Long Island is so vulnerable. You know, you can't get off this island in
Right.
an emergency. We'll be stuck here for
Yeah.
most of us until we get on a ferry or something. So it's good to be prepared, especially if it's true that global sea waters are rising. You said you worked in Oceanside for a while. Whenever we get a weather report, we see that, you know, Hewlett is under some sort of coastal flood warning. And I wasn't working here at the time, but I believe that many areas were flooded during Superstorm Sandy.
Right. And then you brought up another good point, and I don't know how the homes are in Hewlett, if many of the homes have basements. I know in Oceanside they did. And then don't store your preps in your basement,
Yeah.
if you can, or have them in plastic and are able to move them. Which makes me think of another thing. So for food storage, I'm lucky enough to have a basement. I store my food in my basement because it's climate controlled. In my attic, I store paper goods because, again, I don't have a big house and you have to find room, but I store the paper goods in the attic. I do rotate them because not every time that I buy toilet paper do I go in the attic and move it all, but every, say, 3, 4 times, I'll go up with paper towels or toilet paper and I'll put the new one in the back because there's a lot there. And then I don't have a garage. So, but if you do, you still have to be careful if critters can get in there. And it's also usually not climate controlled. But I store my gasoline in a shed. I store the propane outdoors, totally separate from it. I also didn't mention I have firewood and I have a fire pit. I don't have a fireplace. But there's that. And then the water, if you do have water damage, you want to have some mold preparation things on hand also, just in case water does get in your house. And unfortunately, some people had to cut all their sheetrock because if the sheetrock gets wet, you have to get rid of that. But if you just have that moldy feeling, want to make sure that you can handle that when you're near water. So
And for I have two cats, so they're the first things I think about. Like, you know, do I have the right cat carriers for them to get them out of the house quickly? So yeah, keep your cat carriers on hand, keep leashes, extra leashes for your dogs, and I guess keep all of their rabies certificates, because you may not be allowed into a shelter unless you can prove that the cats or the dogs have their shots, which would be
right.
devastating.
Right. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And have food for them, food and water for them too. It was very interesting. I had my car serviced at Honda in Bethpage the other day, and I walk while they're doing the work. And they have Nassau County over by Grumman. It's by Grumman, and in those lots they have Nassau County emergency vehicles. And I was very surprised. They had 3 or 4 vehicles for pets,
Oh,
which I thought was wow. Like they just animal rescue, but it wasn't like for strays. It was in times of this was disaster trucks, like the Red
right.
Cross was there, and it was just for the animals because maybe sometimes people can't take animals with them. And hopefully we never have to face this, but the whole point is to feel like I can handle anything. It's just if you feel good about yourself, say you're an athlete and you make a certain accomplishment, just as a person who runs a household, you want to feel good about yourself that if there's an emergency, I got this. We can do this. And if anybody goes camping, that's great practice. I
I
don't know.
was um I know I don't want to get into politics or anything like that, but I want just as Janice started at the very beginning, check those store shelves. The war in Ukraine right now is affecting what's on our shelves. And you will see shortages coming and going and things like that. So yeah, just be aware of what's going on so you don't have to panic shop at the last minute. Just like Janice said at the very beginning, you want to be secure. You don't want to have to panic. So I think
Right.
this was a great presentation, and I thank you very much for it.
Oh, you're welcome. And I just want to just say one more thing. You're absolutely right. Pick up things while you can, rotate it so it won't be bad. And then for your friends and family and loved ones who think you're crazy, they're gonna like my sister during the beginning of COVID when I had to give her toilet paper, they may think you're crazy, but pick up some food for them too. Because you never know. And if you rotate it, it's not going to go to waste. Buy what you like and what you eat, and it'll be good. I apologize for that lip,
It-
but I'm
you
glad.
were great. You were great.
Thank
You were
you.
perfect.
Thanks, Marie.
All
Thank
right.
you, everybody. And
Thank
I'll
you.
send you that link now.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Have a
Thanks,
great day,
everyone.
everyone. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.